Let me ask you something. How often do you change yourself the moment you sense someone pulling away? You notice their reply is shorter. Their tone feels different. They disagree with you. Maybe they leave you on read. And suddenly, you start reviewing everything you said. Did I say too much? Did I upset them? Should I explain myself? Should I apologize? Should I text again? If you've done that, you know how exhausting it is. Because you're not just having a conversation anymore. You're managing someone's opinion of you. And that is where the trap begins. You think you're protecting the relationship or keeping the peace. You start making decisions based on one question. What will they think of me? And the more often you do that, the more power their reaction gets over you. Here's the part most people get backwards. They think respect comes from being more likable. So they become more agreeable. They explain themselves endlessly. They say yes when they mean no. They hide disagreement. They respond instantly because they don't want anyone feeling ignored. But respected people don't build their lives around avoiding disapproval. They can hear, "I don't agree," without immediately defending themselves. They can say no without turning it into a courtroom speech. And they can make a decision knowing someone might not like it. That isn't arrogance. It's self-respect. You can listen, admit when you're wrong, and still care about people without losing yourself. The difference is that their reaction no longer decides your value. And once you understand that, you'll see why some people command respect without demanding it. Stay with me until number 6, because that's where this changes completely. But first, you need to catch the habit that quietly tells everyone your confidence is negotiable. Number 1, stop over-explaining yourself. Have you ever given someone a simple answer, then immediately started explaining it? You say, "I can't make it tonight." And instead of leaving it there, you add, "I've just been really busy, and I have some things to finish, and honestly I would come if I could." Why? Because somewhere underneath the explanation is a hope. Please understand my decision so I don't have to feel guilty about making it. That's where a decision turns into a request for permission. Most people don't realize how often they do this. They explain why they need space. They defend why they changed their mind. They give 5 reasons for saying no when one sentence would have been enough. And the more reasons you give, the more it can sound like your decision is still open for negotiation. Confident communication works differently. It sounds like, "I can't make it tonight, but I appreciate the invitation." That's it. No courtroom defense. No 10-minute justification. And psychologically, that difference matters because concise communication can signal that you've already made your decision. You're informing the other person, not asking them to approve it before you move forward. But don't misunderstand this. Being concise doesn't mean becoming dismissive. If you made a mistake, own it. If your decision affects someone else, explain what they need to know. Accountability requires clarity. The problem is explaining yourself because you're afraid someone might disagree. Think about the last time you over-explained something you had the right to decide for yourself. What would have happened if you had simply stated your decision and allowed the other person to dislike it? That discomfort is exactly what you need to learn to tolerate. Because saying your decision is easy when everyone agrees. The real test begins when someone pushes back and tries to make you change it. And that's where most people give their power away. Number 2, learn to disappoint people without panicking. Here's a test of your self-respect. Say no to someone you care about and watch what happens inside you. Maybe your friend wants you to go somewhere you don't want to go. Your coworker asks you to take on another task. A family member expects you to change your plans. You say no. The anxiety starts. You wonder if they're upset. You start explaining. You soften the answer until it barely sounds like a no. That's the approval trap again. You're not choosing kindness. You're trying to control their reaction. And those are different things. Being considerate means caring about how your choices affect people. Being controlled by their reactions means abandoning your choice when they're disappointed. Most people confuse the two, so they keep sacrificing things to avoid discomfort. One favor becomes 5. One change plan becomes a pattern. Eventually, people don't see your boundary as a boundary because you've taught them that pressure will move it. It makes your behavior predictable, and that's where respect changes. Imagine you tell a coworker, "I can't take that on today." They look annoyed. You could start explaining how busy you are, apologize, and eventually agree to do it anyway. Or you could say, "I understand. I still can't take it on today." Notice what changed. You didn't become rude. You didn't punish them for being disappointed. You stopped treating their disappointment like an emergency. Let people have feelings about your boundaries. You are responsible for communicating your limits. You are not responsible for everyone's happiness. When people discover that your no remains a no even when they dislike hearing it, they stop treating your boundaries like opening offers. But there's a problem. Saying no once can feel powerful. The real test is what happens when they ignore it, push again, and test the same boundary. Number 3, make your boundaries predictable, not emotional. What happens when you say no, but the other person keeps pushing? This is where a lot of people lose the respect they were trying to build. They tolerate the interruption once, then twice. They stay quiet when someone speaks to them disrespectfully. They accept another last-minute request. They keep swallowing small frustrations until one day, everything comes out at once. Now they're angry. Their voice changes. They list every problem they've been holding in. And afterward, they feel guilty. That pattern teaches people something dangerous. Your boundary only exists when you're emotional enough to enforce it. There's a better way. A boundary is predictable. If someone repeatedly interrupts you, you don't need to explode. You can say, "Let me finish, then I'll hear you." If a coworker keeps dropping last-minute work on you, you can say, "I can help with this tomorrow, but I can't take it on today." And if someone speaks to you disrespectfully, you don't need a dramatic speech. You can end the conversation. "I'm willing to talk when we can do that respectfully." Then comes the part most people skip. You follow through. Because people learn boundaries through consequences, not announcements. If you repeatedly say, "Don't do that," but continue giving the same access, your words become background noise. Predictability is powerful because nobody has to guess where you stand. And notice what this does for you, too. You stop waiting until you're furious before protecting yourself. You catch the behavior earlier, respond calmly, and move on without spending the rest of the day replaying the interaction. That is what mature boundaries look like. Not punishment, not intimidation, not cutting everyone off. Just consistency. But even a clear boundary can fail if what still controls you is how the other person reacts when you enforce it. Number 4, stop reacting so quickly. Someone says something disrespectful, and you feel it instantly. Your chest tightens. Your mind prepares a response. Maybe they criticized your work, ignored your message, or made a comment designed to embarrass you. And before you've decided whether the comment deserves your attention, you've already reacted. That is the difference between having an emotion and obeying it. You cannot control the first emotional spike, but you can control what happens after it. Most people skip that gap. Someone provokes them, they answer. Someone criticizes them, they defend themselves. Someone goes silent, they message again. Their emotional state becomes a remote control, and other people keep pressing the buttons. Respected people aren't emotionless. They simply don't hand every emotion the authority to choose their next move. Try this instead. First, notice the spike. Don't type. Don't argue. Recognize, "I'm angry," or "I'm feeling rejected." Second, create a gap. Even 3 slow seconds can interrupt the automatic sequence between feeling and behavior. Third, ask, "Does this actually require a response?" Sometimes the answer is yes. You need to address the disrespect, clarify something, or defend what genuinely matters. Sometimes the answer is no, and that distinction changes everything. Imagine someone makes a sarcastic comment in front of your coworkers. The old version of you might fire back because staying silent feels like losing. But what if you paused? You might realize they were trying to get a reaction. Now you have a choice. Give them exactly what they wanted or respond on your terms. That is emotional control, not pretending you don't care. Choosing who gets access to your reactions. And once people realize they can't control your mood by pressing the right emotional button, they have far less power over you. But what if someone deliberately provokes you because they already know how you'll react? Number 5, stop trying to win every interaction. Have you ever kept arguing long after the conversation stopped being useful? Someone misunderstands you, and you feel an almost physical need to correct them. They criticize you, and suddenly you're building a case. They make an accusation, and you start collecting evidence, examples, screenshots, and explanations. You tell yourself you're defending the truth. Sometimes you're defending your ego. Because when you need to win every interaction, you're quietly asking the other person to confirm that you're right, intelligent, competent, or worthy of respect. And ironically, that can make you look less secure. Think about the person who always has to get the final word. Every disagreement becomes a debate. Every misunderstanding becomes a correction. Every opinion gets defended like a personal attack. Compare that with someone who can simply say, "I see it differently," and leave the conversation there. Which person seems more in control? Not every disagreement deserves your energy. That doesn't mean becoming passive-aggressive or pretending you don't care. If someone spreads a serious lie about you, damages your work, or crosses an important boundary, speak up. But ask yourself one question before you engage. Am I trying to solve something? Or am I trying to make this person acknowledge my worth? That question can save you from hours of pointless conflict. Sometimes the strongest response is clarification. Sometimes it's a boundary. And sometimes it's letting someone keep their opinion because proving them wrong would cost more than it's worth. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. And when you stop treating every disagreement like a referendum on your value, something deeper becomes visible. If you no longer need to win every interaction, what exactly have you been trying to prove in the first place, anyway? Number 6. Build a life that doesn't depend on their reaction. Here is where this gets deeper. If someone's praise can make you feel valuable and their criticism can make you question yourself, the problem isn't your communication. It's your identity. You've handed other people the job of telling you how to feel about yourself. Think about it. Someone compliments your work and you feel confident. Someone questions it, and suddenly that confidence disappears. One person's approval lifts you up. Another person's disapproval pulls you down. Your emotional state is being managed by an audience. That's external validation. And the problem isn't that appreciation feels good. The problem begins when you need appreciation to believe something about yourself. The alternative is internal standards. Instead of asking, do they think I did well? You start asking, did I do what I said I would do? Instead of, do they respect this decision? You ask, was this decision consistent with my values? That changes where your confidence comes from. You build internal evidence. Keep a promise you made to yourself. Finish the workout when nobody knows you went. Have the difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Say no when saying yes would be easier. Admit when you were wrong without turning the mistake into a verdict on your character. Every time you do that, you give yourself another piece of evidence. I can trust myself. And self-trust is more stable than applause. This doesn't mean you stop caring what people think. That would be unrealistic. Other people can see things you miss, and feedback can help you grow. The shift is different. You listen to their reaction without surrendering your self-evaluation to it. That's the turning point. Because when your identity no longer depends on approval, you don't have to force confidence, perform indifference, or pretend not to care. You become harder to control. And once your identity stops depending on approval, your behavior around people starts changing without you forcing it. Number 7. Become comfortable being misunderstood. Here's a strange part of becoming confident. You have to become okay with being misunderstood. Someone thinks you're rude because you stopped over-explaining. A friend thinks you're distant because you stopped chasing them. A coworker decides you're difficult because you finally said no. And your first instinct is to fix it. You want to explain your intention, clarify the situation, prove you meant well. But ask yourself something. Do I actually need to fix this? Sometimes yes. If you hurt someone, own it. If you made a mistake, correct it. If your behavior genuinely caused harm, don't hide behind, I don't care what people think. But sometimes, you're not fixing a misunderstanding. You're managing someone's perception of you. And those are completely different things. Imagine you leave a group chat because the conversations have become draining. Someone decides you're being arrogant. You could spend 20 minutes explaining that you're stressed, busy, tired, and still care about everyone. Or you could let them have their interpretation. It doesn't mean you enjoy being misunderstood. It means you recognize that not every opinion requires a response. The same thing happens at work. You make a decision your coworker dislikes. They create a story about why you did it. You know the real reason, your manager knows the context, and the work gets done. Do you really need to convince everyone else? The approval seeker asks, how do I make them understand me? The grounded person asks, is their misunderstanding actually costing me something? The less desperately you need to be understood, the more seriously people often take you. Because you're no longer defending every choice or begging people to see you correctly. You're letting actions speak longer than explanations. And that brings us to the next layer. If you stop managing everyone's perception, what actually makes people form a strong opinion of you in the first place? Number 8. Let your actions create your reputation. At some point, you have to stop trying to look respectable and start becoming someone people can rely on. People don't build their opinion of you from one conversation. They build it from patterns. You said you'd do something, and you did it. You showed up when you said you would. You admitted when you were wrong without hiding behind excuses. You spoke clearly instead of changing your position whenever someone pushed back. Those moments compound. And this is where confidence becomes visible. You can perform confidence. You can use the right words, pretend nothing bothers you. But if you break promises, miss deadlines, avoid responsibility, or treat people badly whenever they disagree with you, eventually the performance falls apart. People notice. A reliable person doesn't need to announce, you can trust me. Their behavior has already made the argument. That's why chasing respect is the wrong strategy. You can't force someone to respect you by demanding it. You can only control the qualities you repeatedly bring into the relationship. Be competent. Keep your word. Speak honestly. Treat people with respect without becoming a people pleaser. When you make a mistake, own it without making everyone else responsible for protecting your ego. That creates something stronger. It creates credibility. And credibility doesn't require constant maintenance because people have evidence. One person keeps telling everyone how confident they are. Another becomes dependable enough that people know what to expect. Who would you trust? Exactly. Respect becomes easier when you stop chasing the feeling of being respected and start building a life that gives people reasons to respect you. You stop chasing approval. You stopped over-explaining. You learned to hold boundaries, control your reactions, and stop fighting. What kind of person are you becoming? You don't need their approval to know your value. At the beginning, we talked about the trap, changing yourself because you're afraid of someone's reaction. You stop explaining every decision like you're asking for permission. You learn to disappoint people without abandoning yourself. Your boundaries become predictable. You stop reacting to every provocation. You stop treating every disagreement like something you have to win. And underneath all of that, something bigger changes. You stop asking, how do I make them respect me? You start asking, am I respecting myself? That is the identity shift. Because the goal was never to make everyone approve of you. That's impossible. Some people will misunderstand you. Some will dislike your choices. Some will never respect you, no matter how carefully you behave. That's okay. Your job isn't to control every opinion. Your job is to become someone whose values, decisions, and actions don't change every time an opinion does. That makes you calmer, clearer, harder to manipulate, and more capable of earning respect. If you want to take this further, watch my video, 7 Tiny Habits That Make People Respect You. That video focuses on small behaviors that change how people experience you. This video showed you what to stop chasing. That one shows you what to start doing. And don't just watch it and forget it. Share this with someone who constantly seeks approval, who needs to hear this. Then comment below, what is one situation where you're going to stop chasing someone's approval? And if you want more psychology-backed videos that make you harder to overlook, subscribe. Because the next level isn't getting everyone to like you. It's becoming someone who no longer needs everyone to.